Hey everybody, Dingus here, back with another video promoting good old family values. On this episode of the program, I want to take a little peek at the skirts of the animation meme community. Mostly because I feel as if the genre is not only fascinating to look into, but also because the community suffers from the same overall issues consistently. And I thought it was time for a big, strong, beefy boy to step into the ring for once and give his own hot takes on the whole situation. And for those who don't know what the name refers to, no, it's not like actual meme animations like Terminal Montage or anything like that. At least not for the most part, anyways. Meme animators are animators known for constantly repurposing certain assets of animation to fit the beat of a song. Usually, the songs chosen will have a repetitious beat, and usually the way that the community functions is that one person will have an original meme, which is an original animation whose fluidity matches the beat of the song, and if people enjoy it enough, then other animators will use that video as a template for their own videos, which will pretty much be the same exact video but with their own original characters copy-pasted in there. I mean, just look at this shit. This is fucking ridiculous. Needless to say, this community has seen quite the popularity on YouTube as of late, and while there's been plenty of other people to cover this, like Stax Lottle, whose video I actually edited and got me interested in this topic, I still want to give my own personal take on the community as a whole, because I feel as if I have kind of a personal connection to this genre. But more on that one later. Don't turn that dial. In this video, I'm going to go over the history of these animation memes, while also covering individual animators in this community and taking a closer inspection at the genre. And while it's entirely easy to take the piss out of the genre as a whole, because, you know, for me personally, it's just not my thing, I'm still going to be as objective and as fair as I can be. For any YouTuber I critique in this video, know that I'm not personally attacking them, and you should in no circumstance ever harass these people. This is just my own feelings towards the genre and recommendations for how they can improve as content creators. So without further ado, let us dig into this. The history of animation memes are probably the most intriguing aspect of this entire style of animation. You see, animation memes can be dated back to have begun somewhere between 2008 to 2013, but not on YouTube, not even Newgrounds.com. The first wave of animation memes can be cited to have come from Flipnote Hatina. Flipnote was an animation tool Nintendo implemented into their widely successful handheld console, the Nintendo DS, in 2008. But Flipnote Hatina was a platform that came alongside Flipnote that acted as a service in which you could upload your animations online. It worked very much in a similar fashion as YouTube, which, in all honesty, was probably what it was inspired by to begin with. It was pretty groundbreaking at the time of 2008. I mean, YouTube just came out 2005. That just like barely tapped into the industry as a whole, like just a little above 3 years earlier. This is where my personal feelings with the genre start to come into play, because I was very much involved with the community of Hatina during this time. A lot of the appeal that came from the first wave meme animators came less from the content itself, but rather what these animators were capable of doing with Flipnote. And I say that because Flipnote was a very limited tool. I mean, just to understand how limited the program was, most of these animations couldn't even exceed a minute-long runtime. And on top of that, your only options as far as colors went were red, blue, white, and black. Two of those aren't even fucking colors. So it made it all the more satisfying to see how crazy certain animators got. They didn't see this restriction as a drawback, they saw it more as a challenge, and found cool new ways to surpass the constraint. This would continue up until 2013, whenever Nintendo had finally closed down Hatina. I myself never actually found out why they closed this site, but in a desperate attempt to maintain their audience, there was a moment in time in where previous Hatina stars and animators were beginning to migrate to YouTube. Needless to say, this actually wasn't that successful. And a lot of that has to do with YouTube's standards at the time. I mean, for fuck's sake, it's kind of understandable whenever your animations look like this.
Krusty Krab, pizza is the pizza, yeah.
compared to fucking this.
Oh, thanks, man. I'll be 1 sec. Okay. Just 1 little sec. Okay. Just 1 little sec. Yep. David Bergerac? David Bergerac?
Yeah, no, don't come in here.
Are you okay, David Bergerac?
It's cool, it's fine. Just don't come in here. Come on.
I'm gonna come in.
Please, I'm busy. Don't come in. Please, busy. I'm
Hold on, I'm opening the door slowly. Here we go, doors being open.
This style of animation, as well as the community as a whole, just kinda died in a short amount of time once their main source of it all was cut off. But here's where it gets fucking wild. Buckle up, kids, because it's about to get fucking crazy in here. Over the course of 2016 to 2017, the second wave of animation memers started to pop up out of nowhere and began to rake in some pretty fucking impressive views. What this means is that for 3 whole years, there was pretty much just a giant void as far as this community went. Instead of making a smooth, buttery transition into a second wave like most other forms of content, there was just a cutoff and an abrupt spike in popularity a few years later. Channels like Jaeger, Kitty Dog, Cheerio, Stariat, and others just showed up on the front porch of YouTube one day and were able to bring in some major fucking subscribers. Out of the 4 YouTubers I just brought up, not a single one of them are under 100,000 subscribers. Stariat even being closer to 1 million subscribers than anything else. WolfieChew, who is a combination of storytime YouTubers and meme animators, even having 1.3 million subscribers. That's a pretty big fucking deal. She's surpassed Butch Hartman, who has made like 4 or 5 different fucking cartoon shows on television and has made several different movies. All of them garbage, but you know, he still made movies. So the question then stands, what's the appeal now? This one I can't really answer in all honesty because I'm not really the target demographic of these videos anymore. But if I were to make a guess, I think a lot of the appeal in the second wave of YouTubers probably comes from the designs and animations of how each individual YouTubers portray themselves. Now, this is where my personal issues with the genre start to kind of shimmy its way in there. The fact that these YouTubers don't usually care enough to improve themselves as artists or even improve their capabilities as animators. And this is where the first YouTuber we're looking into today comes in. While she didn't start up the second wave of YouTubers, and she's not the most popular in her community, she definitely played an essential role in making the second wave of this community what it is today. And she continues to inspire smaller creators to this very minute that we speak. It makes sense to see how she's gotten a following, because honestly, she has some fucking amazing animation. Considering she's only 18 and is the only one who works on her videos, the amount of quality in the animations themselves is quite astounding, honestly. But the issue is not her animation quality, but rather the frequency of original animation. The thing that separates her from being something truly special is the constant and unending wave of repurposed animation. She usually takes 3 seconds of original animation and she'll replay it until the end of the fucking video. And usually she treats the repetitive beats that she's syncing her animations with as a justification for this abysmal amount of reuse. Don't believe me? Just watch what happens whenever I snap my finger and I remove the audio to this one video. It immediately becomes noticeable how jarring this actually is. It's a shame because, like I said, she is beyond talented, but she rarely actually uses her talent aside from the few snippets of animation she does actually make. I think a large reason why she relentlessly repeats her own assets come from an issue with YouTube as a whole, that being just how they treat animators. Since 2014, YouTube has implemented a system in which heavily promotes longer watch time, upload consistency, and overall audience engagement. Because animation is such a hard and time-consuming process, animators are constantly having to sacrifice upload consistency to make quality animations. But due to animation being so time-consuming, it also means watch times will be significantly shorter since, once again, animation, it's a very tedious prospect. Just to give you an idea of how insane the industry can get, 2 minutes of animation alone, if that animation runs in 24 frames per second, can add up to 3,600 frames of animation. It's basically impossible to rely on animation financially if your only source of income is YouTube. What this means is that you'll have to get an actual job on top of animating just to be allowed to continue to animate. Taking into consideration how Jaeger's already fighting an uphill battle being an animator, to be making about 50-second videos as well, which is a common trait in the community, would mean that the ads you run on your videos, if you even run ads at all, would probably be half the time it takes to actually watch your videos. And considering YouTube's new rules for monetization, they probably can't even run ads anymore due to the required watch time it takes to get monetized. This means Jaeger has to get a job in order to make a financial income, but understanding the sheer quality and amount of effort it takes to make the few seconds of animation she does, that would be entirely time-consuming in itself. What I'm getting at is that Jaeger probably can't devote the time she needs to make an entire 50-second animated video, and is probably the reason why she reuses assets so much. To make things worse, she's 18. Which means it's also entirely possible that on top of animation, she also has to balance school and a job in one go. Now, with all of this in mind, none of this means that she can't improve still. She could entirely improve if she just animated a couple more movements and frames to add into her animations for whenever a new beat in the song commences. It'd be more time consuming, yes, but it'd make the quality of the video itself a lot stronger. Here's where it truly begins to hurt the community though. Since Jaeger is too impatient to dedicate more time towards her videos for more dynamic animation, she ends up relying way too heavily on repurposing her own animation. The issue is that people who look up to her as an inspiration will see the recycled animation and will believe that the only way to grow their content as big as she did is to do the same. It promotes laziness to other creators, and considering how Jaeger has never really made a big effort to improve this aspect of her videos, it definitely doesn't help. Now, Starriad is definitely someone whose content I can understand more conceptually, because she actually tries to reference memes instead of just slapping the title of meme onto the video and it has nothing to do with memes, which is basically this entire goddamn community in a nice little gift box. This is not a fucking meme! And you can actually see improvements with her art style as a whole while she's been on this site, but her animations... it's some of the choppiest I've seen in a while. Like, you can definitely tell she's more of an artist than an animator, which doesn't mean that she's not good at animation, it just means she needs to improve, and that's the one thing she never does. Not only that, but it's kind of an issue because it affects a lot of the pacing. And when it comes to her more comedic style of making videos, she really depends on that timing. Comedic timing as a whole is probably the most important aspect of anything comedy related. So this animation not only affects the comedic timing, but it overall just makes the videos less interesting to look at. I can appreciate the fact that she's actually trying, but with this type of animation, it kind of makes the more fast-paced moments lose momentum. And that's not what you want to do as an animator. She has never improved in that regard either. Her animation has more or less always stayed the same. She started experimenting with other color palettes like her Pick Me video where it's predominantly black, but firstly, she hasn't really perfected her own animation enough to branch off to experiment with other entirely different techniques, and secondly, there's so much lazy animation in this video itself, which makes the idea of experimenting redundant to me. Wouldn't the whole purpose of experimenting with new animation formats to challenge yourself and see what you can truly do as an animator? There's just a lot of moments that just feel lazy to me, and even though I'm not an animator, there's a lot of things she totally could have pulled off if she just tried it a little harder. If she just went at it with a little more heart. Like, as an audience, you'd assume that the setting being mostly black would imply shadows or darkness or something, so whenever you see these random streaks of white hitting the character in the video, you'd expect that it would reveal some more outlines or something, since it seems to give off the vibe that it's obviously a source of light emitting from somewhere. But instead of outlining the character in black, which is actually one of my favorite animation techniques due to just being an appealing sense of contrast, it's actually just nothing more than random white streaks that hit our character sometimes. It makes no sense why you couldn't have just outlined the character in a black outline for the parts that this white streak actually touches. It not only makes the purpose of experimenting redundant, but it sacrifices quality too. A similar issue happens later in the video in which it's just flashing white onto a close-up of the character, but all she's doing is inverting the colors. Once again, she's not implementing this to enforce a source of light, since when it happens, the character shown on the screen isn't being revealed more, it just happens to happen. And it not only confuses the audience as to what the hell's going on, it just looks bad. It gives me the idea that Starryat doesn't really understand the techniques she's trying to implement into her videos. And I know it sounds like a small thing, but just small cool animation quirks like that can really go a long way to make you stand out more. Like, remember when Samurai Jack had to fight Shinobi and the animators did all this cool shit with the contrasting colors? That shit still sticks out to me in my head years after it's already happened, because it's such an admirable and fucking cool thing to witness. So because I'm an asshole, I want to play a quick little game I made up just now called Find the Light Source. Basically how it works is we take this video and we try to redirect the light source to a certain location in the video. If the light source remains consistent and well fleshed out, then the viewer is not confused and they are able to grasp the scenario. Otherwise, well, that's a story for another time, I hope. Okay. Yep. Okay, we get our first source of light. Okay. It's just a bunch of light flashing so far. Oh, she's being revealed, except there's no light around here. Oh, it looks like there's some light. Oh, there's light all over the place. The light source is already off to a bad start. Oh. This isn't even an attempt. Look at this one, folks. No idea what the hell is going on with her hands there. We're back to this. Note that this is slowed down a little bit. So, it makes even less sense when it's played at its normal speed. Where the fuck is that light source coming from? I have no idea what the hell I was supposed to feel during any of this video. This was only, how long was this? This was only a minute long and I got so goddamn confused so quickly. So basically on a scale of 1 to fuck my life, that told me absolutely nothing and I was left bewildered and confused. We're gonna label that video with, no light source, everybody. No light source. Alright, thank you all for watching, and good night, America. And the fact that Starryat is a YouTuber who has amassed 700,000 subscribers, I would expect her to at least be able to grasp the importance of the whole medium she's performing to begin with. With her overall lack of improvement in her different animation formats that she's trying to pull off, it gives me the feeling that she has a long way to go before she can become anything truly special. And there's nothing wrong with that, but she has to be the one to take those extra steps going forward to ensure that this will happen, which, in all honesty, she probably should have been looking for those mistakes to begin with. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes as long as you improve from them. Otherwise, what's the point of animating at all? And this isn't to say she's a bad artist. She's actually very talented and has pulled off a bunch of different drawing styles really well. But she just needs to put in that extra effort to improve the actual quality of her animations themselves. Finally, we get to Cheeriox. Cheerio? Or Cheeriox? Hold on, let me look this up for a second. Oh, so, But we're already off to a bad start just looking at her channel art alone. I mean, it's drawn well and is a decent usage of color, but did she actually forget to draw the rest of the character's arm and then just put stroke over it in hopes that people wouldn't notice? I mean, yeah, I've had my fair share of bad cropping too. Don't get me wrong, everyone makes those mistakes. But the difference between me and Cheerio is about 99,770. So yeah, just food for thought. I also think it's a good representation of her content as a whole because she's pretty much by the book's animator who doesn't really take that extra effort to make something unique that stands out. She's good at drawing, she's good at animating, and she's a pretty good editor too, but she doesn't really add much to her videos to give it a specific voice or to make it stand out. Like with Jaeger, she has amazing animation. With Starryat, she's willing to experiment with other art styles, but with Cheerio, I chose this YouTuber specifically to be the last talking point of my video because I feel as if she basically embodies a good majority of the community she represents. And the fact that she's so much smaller than the other channels we've talked about helps give me the idea that she's inspired by the people who are higher in sub counts than she is. And you know what, I get that vibe just watching her videos overall. Like, as much as I love Jaeger's animation, being inspired by someone like Jaeger isn't entirely healthy to the community due to certain aspects of her actual content. Much like Jaeger, Cheerio does an unhealthy amount of repurposing animation. In fact, the biggest difference between the two just stemmed from Jaeger putting more animation in her videos overall. Like with Blossom, Jaeger put more original animation in her videos than any of her other previous videos, and it's really nice to look at. It's still riddled with a bunch of recycled animation, but there was a bunch of effort put in to make it as eye-pleasing as possible aside from this fact. Cheerio, while having good editing, uses very basic backgrounds with a similar color palette in every video that convey the same exact tone every single time. I mean, it's not unappealing to look at, but gets very boring very quick with no real variety. On top of that, she reuses the same animation so much that, much like her backgrounds, it becomes very mundane very quickly. She doesn't improve herself. She's talented, but talent alone can only go so far until its novelty wears out. And with the reluctance to improve, we're given nothing much to stick around with. In some cases, like her Spin Me Around video, the animation doesn't even really sync up with the song at all. When I watch her videos, I get an overall feeling of reluctance, as in it feels like she's often reluctant to animate in her own videos. Not only is she constantly repurposing animation, but sometimes she relies more so on her editing before she actually even brings in a single piece of original animation. Like in her girls video, it takes her about 20 seconds before she actually introduces any animation at all in a 50-second video, while the animation itself is just a looping avatar with her mouth opening to match the beat of the song. And if you want to look into it even deeper, which would be closer to nitpicking than actual honest critique, so take this one with a grain of salt, the avatar whose mouth is moving is making a la sound. In order to do that, you have to move your tongue, and their tongues aren't moving at all. It's not really that big of a deal, just kind of a pet peeve, I guess, so don't really focus on that one. It doesn't really matter. My favorite videos of her would definitely be Marble Soda, because while she does repurpose animation a little bit, the song itself is so fast-paced that your brain can't really register that. And on top of that, this is a video where her animation and editing actually feel intertwined. That's kinda a smaller issue I have with her channel due to her being a good editor overall, but her animations and editing can sometimes feel separate from each other, and I think that's really what makes the looping animation stand out. Like in most of her videos, the animated portion of it is just smack dab in the middle doing its own thing, while she edits in the background. They never really interact with each other, so it usually feels like she either isn't animating to the fullest of her extent, or she isn't editing to the best of her power. And considering how, once again, she's a pretty good editor, I kinda doubt that it's the second one. These two elements of her videos feel completely separated from each other. They don't blend together that well because there's a small portion of interaction, and so it just feels lazy. When you make a video, you want to try to make every bit of it work together in harmony. And while I know I'm not the best when it comes to editing by any means. The important difference between me and Cheerio, aside from the sub count, is that at least I attempt to get better and better within each video. I might not be the most technical guy on the planet, but I try to differentiate myself from the people I'm inspired by, and I've tried to construct my own voice that holds its own meaning as opposed to just repeating everything Stax has to say, or Zocalo, or Turkey Tom. It's important to understand your own craft and to improve on it, because no matter what, there will always be something you can improve upon. Even if it's as small as making sure your boner isn't caught on camera, you should always strive for that extra level. A common trait that can be found from these three YouTubers is just the fact that they eventually stopped improving. Jaeger stopped making more original animations for the sake of convenience, and as a result, we have plenty of moments in which there's just the same looping animation multiplied, creating an unengaging video once the initial glitter of her animation has died down. Starryat stopped improving on smooth transitions, and as a result her animation is choppy, while also showcasing a clear misunderstanding of different animation styles that could work in hand with giving her own voice. Both of these YouTubers are big figures in the animation meme community, and as a result, they've told other inspiring animators like Cheerio to just stop at mediocrity, and she was able to get 180k subs from it too, which just furthered this notion. The underlying issues with the animation meme community is just their refusal to better themselves, and this problem will only continue to spread to newcomers on the genre too, and these issues will continue to resonate until someone speaks up on it or a big animator changes something. There's so many people in this community who are extremely talented, but otherwise disregard their talents to keep up with the norm of the medium. And that's one of the worst things to witness. It is legitimately disheartening for me to see all these talented artists and animators do nothing with their talents. I mean, you know, they do actually do something with their talents, but it's not to the fullest extent. They're not driving themselves to anything revolutionary here. For all these YouTubers and many more that I haven't spoken on in this video, there's an obvious passion in some aspect of the content creation, but they don't go that extra mile, so the community can't really evolve from here. And when that happens, your genre eventually just ends up in its own little bubble where it can no longer expand. Eventually, these formats of videos will just flat out die once people have gotten bored with it. Content is not eternal, which is something that you must understand as a creator, so it's important to continue your craft. For the sake of not getting repetitive and not ripping off a Stax's video, I'll summarize it here. Improve yourself, grow from your mistakes, and for the love of God, stop reusing the same 3 seconds of animation and ending it there. That's so fucking lazy, and it makes me a little flustered. That's really all I had to say for this week. Shout out to Stax Lotl for letting me edit his video that got me invested in this topic in the first place. And also, I just want to take this time to goddamn thank you all for your support of this show. Like, fact is, I probably wouldn't even be here without you guys. So I can't express how much it means to me to witness all the positive feedback I've gotten within the last week or so. Oh shit, my camera went out. Oh well, guess it's time to bust out the avatar last second. So I can't express how much it means to me to witness all the positive feedback I've gotten within the last week or so. I fucking love all you assholes out there, and I'm so thankful that you continue to stick around with all my dumb shit. So with that out of the way, this is Exro, and good night, alt-light.